There, I remember to unmute it this time. Good afternoon, all. This is Meteorologist Donald Jones with the National Weather Service office in Lake Charles. We do have, as a lot of you have pointed out already on the comment sections here, another possibility for severe weather across the region. It's been a little while since we've had one, and by a little while, I mean at least a couple of weeks. I think the last one was, what, Mardi Gras? But yeah, we are looking at another potent cold front to roll through the area here on Saturday, and that is going to bring the risk of severe weather with it. In fact, we're going to have a low-end risk of severe weather as we go through the day tomorrow. But the bigger overall risk is going to be Saturday morning. This is a little bit of an unusual event in the fact that we are going to be looking at the majority of the storms occurring during the morning hours. Usually when we're talking about severe weather, we tend to see them in the afternoon and evening. But this is actually going to be a morning event, which is a little bit unusual for this part of the world. Nonetheless, that's what we're going to be dealing with. You can see the graphic behind me here showing the bright, scary reds. That is the indication of a moderate risk for severe weather across the region. We'll talk about that. All forms of severe weather are going to be possible. So tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail are all going to be possible with any one of these storms as we go through the Saturday morning. Now, the good news is I know there's a lot of outdoor activities expected Saturday or ongoing during Saturday afternoon. I think most of this activity is going to be out of here by Saturday afternoon, at least mid-afternoon. So those activities may be able to go ahead as planned. Kind of going to have to take a wait and see on exactly how that develops. But I think there is possibly going to be some salvaging of, say, mid to late Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening. So it's not going to be a whole day of dealing with the severe weather. In addition to the severe weather threat, we're also going to be looking at some windy conditions developing tomorrow ahead of the frontal boundary that's going to be bringing us our severe weather. We'll be looking at some wind gusts out there, possibly up to 30 miles per hour, and that's outside of thunderstorms. That's just what we call our gradient wind, just the winds kind of blowing around the area of low pressure that's eventually going to bring us this severe weather. We'll talk about all of that over the next few minutes, as well as answer any of your questions. As always, if you do have any questions, feel free to post them in our comment section, and we'll answer them here just as soon as we wrap up our briefing here. Let's go ahead and jump into it here. Again, we do have a wind advisory now in effect for essentially the coastal portions of southeast Texas, so Jefferson and Orange counties, as well as most of southwest and central Louisiana. This is for sustained winds of 20 to 25 miles per hour, gusting as high as 35 miles per hour, I should say, as we go through the day tomorrow. Now, this is outside of thunderstorms. This does not include the thunderstorms themselves, which may have the potential to produce even stronger winds of 60 miles per hour or greater. This is what we call gradient winds. So we are going to be looking at some gusty winds throughout the entire day, essentially from about, say, 9 or 10 a.m. Those winds will be picking up through about 7 p.m. For those winds. So definitely want to make sure if you have any loose outdoor furniture, light chairs, lawn chairs, stuff like that, either batten down the hatches with them or bring them in, because they may very well get blown around. Easter decorations, whatever the case may be. Anything that's potentially blown in the wind, you're going to want to bring those inside tomorrow, and I'd keep them inside through Saturday as well. Now, let's talk about what's actually bringing the severe weather here before I actually get into the details of it. We are going to be looking at a strong cold front rolling through the area. I say it's strong. It's strong in terms of the precipitation that's coming with it, not so much the temperatures. We are going to be about 10 degrees cooler behind the boundary itself Sunday into early next week. It's going to feel a little bit more spring-like out there as opposed to today and tomorrow, where we're going to be looking at high temperatures in the 80s. But this is not going to be a frontal boundary that's going to bring in freezing temperatures again. I think we're pretty much done with the freezing conditions. We're well past our latest average freeze date. So while it will get down possibly into the 40s behind this front, we're not expecting anything close to freezing. What this front is going to do is provide a source of lift for this abundant moisture that's moved into the area. If you've stepped outside today at any point, you've noticed that it's much more humid than perhaps is typical for this time of year. That's the next factor involved with this, is the increasing moisture. You can see we have 65 plus degree dew points rolling into the region. And that is in advance of this frontal system. That's going to set up a lot of moisture and a lot of energy ahead of this frontal boundary that's going to be rolling through, bringing us the potential for severe weather. And then on top of that, we have these, what we call wind shear. Essentially, what we have is winds that are changing speed and direction with height. So the graphic on the left there, you can see that's our winds at the surface. As we go through tomorrow into Saturday, you can see they're pretty strong even on the surface to begin with. But look at aloft, that's roughly about 18,000 feet. If I move me out of the way, you can actually see the thing there. About 18,000 feet in the air. You can see much, much stronger winds over 100 miles an hour up that way. This is called a jet stream and a jet streak, to be more specific. And this is actually not only going to be increasing the speed with height, but there's also a change in direction. Notice it's got a more of a west-southwesterly component to it, as opposed to on the surface where we're looking at a more south-southwesterly component. That's called directional shear. And then the change in wind speed with height is called speed shear. Both of those favor strong supercell developing thunderstorms and the potential for tornadoes. As those winds change speed and direction with height, that's where you start to get the rotation that's needed to produce tornadoes. So both of those will be in place with this event as we go into Saturday morning. Go forward, Okay. So that's kind of what we're dealing with in terms of the why. Let's talk about what we're expecting. We're going to be looking at severe weather both tomorrow and Saturday. It looks like the much higher risk is going to be Saturday, but we're not ruling out the possibility of some scattered showers and thunderstorms as we go through tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. Now, the overall risk is much lower. You can see the green there. That's a marginal risk. So that's a category 1 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center severe weather scale. So relatively low. And that's mainly going to be for southwest and south central Louisiana. I don't expect any kind of severe weather tomorrow across southeast Texas. In fact, it may not even rain across large parts of the area. We're looking for a few scattered showers and thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon, but this is not the main event. This is not why I'm here talking to you this afternoon. The bigger event is going to be as the cold front approaches and moves through on Saturday, and that's where the higher overall risk is going to be. Nonetheless, I do want to talk about this just very briefly. So we are going to be looking at a very low-end tornado risk tomorrow afternoon. This is mainly going to be across parts of Avoyelles and northern Rapides parishes. And then taking a look at the wind risk, you can see there's roughly about a 5 to 15% chance of seeing some strong damaging winds. This covers a wider area. That's still a relatively low risk, but there is going to be the chance for some strong damaging winds. That's outside of or not including the strong winds that we're already going to be dealing with, those 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts. We're expecting stronger winds potentially even within those individual storms that form tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. So roughly about a 5 to 15% chance of seeing those within 25 miles of any given location. So essentially what that means is, for example, take here in Lake Charles, there's a 5 to 15% chance of seeing 60-mile-an-hour or greater winds within 25 miles of the Lake Charles area. And you can kind of fill in your particular location for that to be the case if you're anywhere in that brown highlighted area. So essentially anywhere in southern Louisiana as we go through tomorrow. Then we're also looking at the probability of large hail. You can see that is confined mainly to northern parts of Rapides and Avoyelles parishes, same as the tornado risk. But again, this risk is relatively low. We're looking at about a 5 to 15% chance. As we go into Saturday, this is actually late Friday night into Saturday, kind of through midday. This is where we're looking at the higher overall risk. For those of you who follow me or follow the weather regularly, you know that it's pretty rare for us to get a moderate risk of severe weather anywhere across this region. We usually get these maybe about once a year, maybe twice if we're having a particularly active season. But this is a very rare situation for us to get a moderate risk, which is a category 4 out of 5 on the Storm Prediction Center severe weather scale. And unfortunately, that is what we're going to be looking at across parts of the region as we go into early Saturday morning. So we're going to be looking at this mainly across parts of Avoyelles, St. Landry, Iberia, Northern St. Martin Parish, or Upper St. Martin Parish. That's where the highest overall risk is going to be for the severe weather going into Friday night into Saturday morning. You can see that red continues off to the east over towards the Baton Rouge area. The North Shore Lake Pontchartrain into it actually covers a large part of Mississippi in that moderate risk. So that's kind of where the highest overall risk is going to be. And you can see there's a fairly sharp gradient as we go back to the west in terms of the severity. Lafayette, New Iberia down towards Morgan City, Jeff Davis, Allen, Evangeline, Rapides parishes, you're in that category 3 out of 5, that enhanced risk. The Lake Charles area is actually right on the cusp of between that category 2 and category 3. That's a slight and an enhanced risk. But those areas are still expected to see significant severe weather, just possibly not quite as much as expected further to the east. I'm going to talk about probabilities here in just a second so you can get a little bit better idea of exactly what I'm talking about. Lake Charles west over towards, say, Orange or thereabouts, also including most of Beauregard and the western half of Vernon Parish, you're in that slight risk, that category 2 out of 5. And then the remainder of southeast Texas, so most of Jefferson County, Hardin County, Tyler County, and Jasper County, you're in a marginal risk. That's a category 1 out of 5. So not saying that you're not going to see severe weather, but the risk across southeast Texas is significantly lower for severe weather than it's going to be across parts of southwest and central Louisiana as we go through the day on Saturday. Let's talk a little bit more about probabilities here and how that translates. So essentially what we're looking at is about a 5 to 15% chance of seeing some kind of severe weather across southeast Texas and extreme western Louisiana. That's the area highlighted in brown that I'm talking about. So that's going to be, say, Vinton up towards Leesville and points further west into southeast Texas. So Jefferson, Orange counties, Hardin, Tyler, Jasper, Newton, you're in that 5 to 15% chance of seeing severe weather. A little bit further to the east, this will be the Lake Charles area, most of Jeff Davis up towards Allen, Rapides, you're in a 15 to 30% chance of seeing some kind of severe weather within 25 miles of any location in that area. So again, for example, in Lake Charles, we'll be looking at a 15 to 30% chance of seeing some kind of severe weather within 25 miles of Lake Charles. Same thing for Alexandria, Oberlin, pretty much all of Jeff Davis Parish. And then as we move over further to the east and we're getting into that red area, this is going to include the Lafayette, New Iberia, Morgan City, pretty much all of Avoyelles, St. Landry, Acadia, Iberia, St. Martin, St. Mary, Vermilion. You're looking at a 30 to 45% chance of seeing severe weather within 25 miles of any location in that area. So you can see the probabilities go progressively up as we get into parts of central and south central Louisiana tomorrow. And you can see there's an even higher risk across parts of southeast Louisiana, say from Baton Rouge over towards Hammond, Slidell, and up into parts of Mississippi. You're looking at a 60 or a 45 to 60% chance of seeing severe weather within 25 miles of a location in those areas. So much higher probabilities, even more so than over in this area, over in southeast Louisiana and southern and central Mississippi. So essentially you can see, like we were talking about a minute ago, a very sharp gradient between southeast Texas and south central Louisiana, with much higher probabilities of severe weather across south central Louisiana as we go into Saturday morning. Now, as I talked about before, the good news is this is not going to be an all-day event. I've highlighted 2 areas here. This is the probability of seeing precipitation over the next couple of days, and this is for our Louisiana cities. I'll show our Texas cities here in just a second. But you can see there's a decent chance of rain as we go through the day tomorrow. That's mainly going to be during the afternoon and evening, roughly about a 20 to 40% chance across southwest and south central Louisiana. That's where that marginal risk of severe weather is going to be. Our better chance of severe weather is going to be Saturday morning. You can see the highest risk or the highest probability of precip is between roughly about 7 a.m. and noon time. We're still going to be looking at some rain continuing and some thunderstorms continuing across parts of south central Louisiana through the early afternoon. But you can see the probabilities begin to come down fairly significantly. Let me get myself out of the way here as we get into the afternoon and evening hours Saturday. So for most of the area, this is not going to be an all-day event. For parts of lower Acadiana down towards, say, Morgan City, and points further east, this could last into kind of the mid-afternoon, late afternoon. But I think for most of the region, this activity is going to be over with by, say, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. For southeast Texas, it's going to be over even sooner than that. Let me go ahead and pull up our southeast Texas cities here. You can see the overall probabilities of rainfall just in general are significantly lower, and the overall probabilities also come to an end earlier. You can see we're pretty much done with the rainfall across southeast Texas by just afternoon. So by 1 p.m., we're looking at virtually no rain to speak of as we go into the afternoon hours across southeast Texas. So this is mainly going to be a early morning to a mid-morning event if you see anything across southeast Texas, and then from kind of early morning through early afternoon for southwest and central Louisiana. We're also going to be looking at, again, this is outside of thunderstorms, and within thunderstorms, we could see higher winds than this, but these are our forecast wind gusts going through the day tomorrow. We're going to be looking at gusts up to 30 miles per hour across southeast Texas, 35 miles per hour across parts of southwest Louisiana. And you can see as we go through into Saturday evening, or Saturday even, we're still going to be looking at some pretty decent winds, gusting up to 20 miles an hour, and that's even outside of those thunderstorms. Now, within a thunderstorm, you could be looking at much stronger winds of 60 miles per hour or greater. Taking a look at the Louisiana cities for our wind gusts, you can see higher wind gusts expected, especially as we go into tomorrow afternoon, 30 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts. These are going to be out of the south. And then even as we go through the event tomorrow, away from storms, we're still looking at wind gusts 20 to 25 miles per hour. So even if you don't see any severe weather out of this, we're still going to be looking at some very gusty winds, even away from the severe storms. So that's what we have here this afternoon for you. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in our comment section. I'll be here for the next few minutes to answer them. If you have a question that you think of once we get off of our briefing here, or one that as you're watching this as a recording, feel free to shoot us a direct message on Facebook. You can also email me. My email is on the screen there in the bottom right-hand corner. It's my name with a dot in the middle, donald.jones@noaa.gov, NOAA.gov. You can also give us a call here at our office at area code 337-477-5285, and we'll be happy to answer your questions that way. I'm going to go ahead and jump back here to the severe weather outlook here for Saturday, and I'll make that full screen so you're not staring at the side of my head while I'm checking to see if we do have any questions. And if you do have one, feel free to throw it in there, and I'll be happy to answer it. I'm going to jump back through here real quick. Terry asks, is this more of a tornado or wind damage storm threat? It's going to be both, really. Both have roughly about, well, I'm not going to say equal chances. I think that the probabilities of damaging winds are going to be a little bit higher, but we are still looking at some decent probabilities of tornadoes with this event, especially essentially from Lafayette eastward. That's where the highest overall risk is going to be. But essentially anywhere across southern Louisiana, most of Mississippi, this is expected to be a tornado outbreak. So we're expecting multiple tornadoes and potentially significant tornadoes. Now, when I'm talking about significant tornadoes, I mean EF2 or greater tornadoes are going to be possible. So yeah, the overall risk for tornadoes is relatively high, as is the risk of damaging straight line winds. Jeff asked, what is the estimated rainfall totals? I don't have a graphic on here for that because the overall rainfall totals are expected to be pretty low. We're looking at less than an inch pretty much everywhere. We're not expecting this to be a significant flash flood concern. So an inch or less in most locations is what we're expecting. If you're lucky or unlucky, as the case may be, you may see a little bit more than that, but we're not expecting too much more than about an inch. Let's see. Robert asks, I'm going to Houston Saturday morning. Do you think I'll be okay? I think the further west you get, the better off you're going to be. But depending on what time you leave Saturday morning, you may run into some of these thunderstorms because we're expecting this to get going pretty early in the morning. Michael says, dust from Texas here. Yes. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, Michael, but yeah, we do have some dust in the area. We've actually had some visibilities lowering across parts of the area today. We were down to about 6 miles due to a combination of dust as well as smoke. So yeah, there is some dust out there. Brooklyn asks, what's the worst Alexandria, Louisiana can expect? Alexandria is in that category 3 out of 5. That's that enhanced risk. So tornadoes are certainly going to be a possibility, as well as strong straight line winds, 60 miles an hour or greater. We're still going to be looking at those wind gusts, 35 miles an hour tomorrow, regardless of what kind of thunderstorms you get. And we are still looking at the possibility of some large hail. Quarter size or larger hail is not out of the realm of possibility. So all forms of severe weather are going to be possible in the Alexandria area. The time frame is most likely going to be, it looks like, from about 6 or 7 a.m. through about noon, or maybe 1 o'clock or so in the afternoon. Lisa says, I'm heading to NOLA Saturday. What time would be the time to leave and head that way? Not on a time constraint. I think later in the day would actually be better. This is going to be ending from west to east during the afternoon. So if you can go kind of towards the evening time frame, you might be able to get behind it. Once the cold front gets through, you can follow the cold front because the severe weather threat will be over once the cold front actually moves through. So if you can follow behind that, you'll be safe that way. If you're out in front of it earlier in the day, though, you're going to be running into some of these storms. Mandy says, sorry, what was the wind gust going to be and which direction? The winds are going to be out of the south. And let me go ahead and pull that back up. So here are our winds. These are our Louisiana ones. I can show the Texas ones if you'd like. But again, this is outside of storms. It's important to make that distinction. They could be much stronger and out of a different direction within thunderstorms. But outside of thunderstorms, we're going to be looking at winds out of the south, gusting up to 35 miles an hour. I think we're going to be sustained probably around 20 to 22-ish or thereabouts during the day tomorrow. And then on Saturday, we're still going to be looking at gusty winds out of the kind of the southwest, gusting to maybe as high as 25. Joe's asking about Church Point. Church Point is I think you're either in the enhanced risk or the moderate risk. So yeah, you're actually in the moderate risk. So the overall risk is actually pretty high for severe weather on Saturday in the Church Point area. All forms of severe weather will be possible. So tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail are all going to be possible, as well as the possibility of some strong tornadoes. Again, those EF2 tornadoes. That's what those black dots that you're seeing there, kind of in the red and the purplish areas, that's what that means. That means there's a greater than 10% chance of seeing an EF2 or greater tornado. Rhonda asks, what time do you think Avoyelles will get bad weather? They have a bass tournament on Saturday. Right now for Avoyelles, we're going to be looking at, I'll show you the precip timing here. So we're going to be looking at Marksville here towards the bottom. That would be pretty representative of most of Avoyelles. You can see the highest overall risk is going to be roughly, or chance of precip is going to be roughly from 7 a.m. till noon. Still not ruling out a couple of lingering thunderstorms during the early afternoon. You can see 30% chance going afternoon through about 3 p.m. But I think the most significant risk for severe weather is going to be between about 7 a.m. and noon for Avoyelles Parish. Terry asked, do you think we'll have a clearing before the storms? Clearing as in like clear skies? I don't think so. I mean, we're clear out there right now, but we're going to be looking at some cloud cover moving in pretty densely as we get into tomorrow, especially tomorrow night. So I don't expect there to be a lot of breaks in the clouds going into to Saturday. And it's important to keep in mind, though, this is going to be most likely a morning event, too. So you're not going to get the kind of daytime heating that you might get otherwise with more traditional events where we're looking at storms in the afternoon and evening. Brooklyn's asking, what's the worst Alexandria can expect? I think did I answer your question, Brooklyn? Yeah, I think I did. But again, all forms of severe weather are going to be possible. Tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail are all going to be possible. John asked, roundabout time to see some rain around Lafayette. Again, we're going to be looking at this mainly being a morning event. I think Lafayette being a little bit further east, you might be a little bit later. You might get some storms continuing into the early afternoon. But you can see the highest overall probabilities. We're talking about the 60% chance of rain here in Lafayette. You can see is roughly between about 7 a.m. and noon. After noontime, there's only about a 25-ish% chance of rain after that. So I think the majority of your activity is going to be before noon, even in Lafayette. Amelia asks, sorry if this is an annoying question. There are no annoying questions, just annoying people. But I missed most of this. Is there a big tornado threat for Lake Charles? There is a tornado threat for Lake Charles. The highest overall risk of tornadoes is going to be further to the east, across parts of south central Louisiana. Lake Charles, if you see the graphic here, we're kind of right on the cusp between that yellow and orange. So we're right on the cusp between that slight and enhanced risk. So yes, there is a tornado threat for Lake Charles. It's not the highest tornado threat we're going to be seeing across the area. The higher risk is going to be further to the east, over towards Lafayette, and even more so over towards the Baton Rouge area. And points further east towards the New Orleans and the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain. But generally speaking, we are still looking at the risk of tornadoes in Lake Charles, just as well as we're looking at the risk of some strong winds and even some large hail. Paul says, I'm on a flight arriving in Lafayette 11:30 a.m. Saturday. Can I expect a delay? I would say there's a pretty good chance of a delay, yes. Ash says, we're traveling to Lafayette on Saturday morning and traveling back in the afternoon. What time frame is the worst weather? Saturday morning. So your traveling to is going to be your worst time frame. It should be coming to an end by Saturday afternoon. But if you're traveling Saturday morning, then you may be dodging some of these potentially severe thunderstorms. Narai says, do you think things could downtrend after the storms on Friday? We are going to be looking at some storms on Friday, but this is Saturday, the one that's on your screen right now. We're looking at some scattered thunderstorms Friday, but no, we're not going to downtrend necessarily because we're going to be looking at the more significant severe threat early Saturday morning. You can see we're looking at some decent rain chances Friday afternoon. You can see roughly from about 1 to 6 p.m. Then we're going to have a little bit of a break. But then overnight and early Saturday morning, we're going to be looking at this activity ongoing again. So there will be a little bit of a break between the two. So if you want to call that a downtrend, you can. But I don't want you to think that if you get out of the storms Friday that you're going to be over with, because no, the more significant threat is going to be Saturday. John says today is my birthday. I'm 36. Happy birthday, John. And very nice weather today, John. We did that just for you. Terry says, what are the chances of seeing the lunar eclipse? I'm not sure when the lunar eclipse is. I should know that. I know, but I don't. If it's tonight, probably pretty decent. If it's tomorrow night, probably not. Christy says, I was supposed to travel I-55 from Breaux Bridge up north to Memphis area in the morning. Can you give insight for the weather along that area for the weekend? I can't give you the entire all the way up to Memphis because I haven't been looking that far north. I've been focusing on our area. But as far as if you're leaving tomorrow, I think you'll be fine. If you're talking about leaving Saturday morning, you're going to be dealing with severe weather. I know this severe weather extends. Let me see if I can pull the graphic all the way. The first graphic here gives us a regional look. You can see that area highlighted in red there. That's the moderate risk, and that goes all the way up through Jackson, up to near Birmingham. You see Memphis itself is actually only in that slight risk, so they're in a little bit lower risk themselves. But for a large part of that drive, as you're going through most of Mississippi, you're going to be looking at a significant risk if you're leaving on Saturday. So you'll be dodging storms pretty much the whole way up, potentially severe storms. Leslie asks, so Hardin County is in the clear, maybe a sprinkle and a breeze. Hardin County is at lower risk. Let me get to Saturday. You can see there is still a risk of severe storms in Hardin County. We're in a marginal risk, so a category 1 out of 5. So no, you're not in the clear, but the risk is going to be lower over in Hardin County than it is over parts of Louisiana, especially central Louisiana. Lorna asks, can it still shift further east from Calcasieu tomorrow? Can it shift away from Calcasieu? It can. I don't think it's going to. I think we're probably going to stay. We actually might wind up in that enhanced risk a little bit further into Calcasieu by tomorrow. Karen asks, what will cloud cover be like Friday, 12 a.m. to 3 a.m.? This is a moon question. I guess that answers my question of when the lunar eclipse is. Let's see, this would be what, very late tonight and tomorrow morning. I think you're probably going to be in pretty good shape across most of the area. We're pretty clear out there. We may be looking at some marine fog rolling in. So if you're anywhere along the coastline, we could be looking at some marine fog kind of developing offshore and moving inland. But for most of the region, I think skies are going to remain clear through the night. Megan asks, can I put the Texas wind graphic back up? I sure can. Let me do that for you here. Those are our forecast wind gusts for southeast Texas. And again, the gradient winds, the winds not associated with thunderstorms that we were talking about, those are going to be strongest tomorrow, kind of from mid-morning through about 5 or 6 p.m. in the evening. You can see we're looking at those gusts up to 30 miles an hour across parts of southeast Texas. I've got a coworker over here who just put a sign up in my window saying, does eclipse equal severe weather? No, it does not. Oscar asks, how long will the storms last? We're going to be looking at the storms beginning early Saturday morning. And then depending on exactly where you are, they're going to be coming to an end during the early afternoon. You can see the highest overall probability of precipitation chances, those 60% plus. Essentially from 7 a.m. to about noon. We're still looking at a few areas seeing some rain chances as we go through the afternoon. But for the majority of the area, this is going to be a morning to potentially very early afternoon event. Andre says, I'm driving back from Shreveport around 3 a.m. to Lafayette Saturday morning in an 18-wheeler. How bad will it be? You're going to be dodging some potentially severe thunderstorms because, yeah, that's going to be the time frame we're looking at. Probably not at 3 a.m., but by the time we get to sunrise, you're going to be looking at some severe weather rolling through. Driving an 18-wheeler, you're going to be particularly susceptible to those damaging strong straight-line winds, which are going to be a possibility, unfortunately, pretty much the whole way down from Shreveport to Lafayette. So, take it slow is the only thing I can advise. If you can adjust your time frame to be later in the day, you'll probably be better off traveling later in the afternoon. Leslie says, I need to give you some pretty weather and light winds. I got fishing fever. Well, it's been pretty the last couple of days, hasn't it? It hasn't been that bad out there. Now the bill is due. The good news is once this gets through, though, we are going to have high pressure actually building in behind it Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So winds should be pretty light, and we should have plenty of sunshine. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is looking very nice. So if that's what you're looking for, you just got to get through this first. All right, that's all the questions I'm seeing for the moment. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the time being. Again, if you have a question that I missed for some reason, or you think of one once we get off of our briefing here, feel free to send us a direct message on Facebook. You can also send us a message on X, where we're also broadcasting at this moment. You can also send me an email. My email is on the screen there. It's donald.jones@noaa.gov. You can also give our office a call here at area code 337-477-5285. We are going to be doing another one of these updates. I think we'll probably do it tomorrow afternoon, probably about the same time, 4:30-ish. So be on the lookout for the schedule for that. That'll be our next update regarding this. In the meantime, everyone have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and evening. It is a pretty nice day out there. Get out and enjoy it. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow afternoon.